Margaret Brennan and our chief legal correspondent, Jan Crawford, both join us now from Washington. Margaret, what is the strategy at the White House? Because it seems no matter whom the president picked, the Republicans in the Senate don't want to give a hearing to anyone at this point.
Look, President Obama's calculus here is don't pick someone too progressive that it makes it impossible for Congress to move ahead and give a fair hearing, as he has called for, to Merrick Garland. And the White House calculation here is they believe that the American public is on their side and that ultimately Republican senators will feel pressure from the public to back away from that outright refusal to consider anyone that President Obama sends their way in this election year. So the bet is that over the next few weeks, you may be able to peel away some Republicans who would at least hold a hearing and then give an up and down vote. So far, the majority leader, Mitch McConnell, has said no way, no how.
Jan, let me turn to you. Tell us about federal judge Merrick Garland. What do we know about him?
Well, I mean, I think what's really interesting is that the president has clearly gone with someone he sees as a compromise pick, a reasonable pick, not the home run that liberal groups had wanted. He's a moderate centrist. He's certainly liberal, but by no means a liberal firebrand. And I think, to Margaret's point, you're going to see the White House trying to make this argument that, the president is not going as far left as some of the groups on the left would have wanted. And so now it's the Republicans' turn to compromise a little bit. But, by all accounts, Judge Garland, deeply experienced and deeply respected chief judge here, the D.C.-based Federal Appeals Court. He's a former prosecutor. Kind of a defining aspect of his approach to the law was his supervision of the Oklahoma City bombing trial. He talks about kind of protecting the victims and bringing people to justice while also honoring the Constitution, fidelity to the Constitution. And that's kind of a lot of the things that we heard from him and what was quite an emotional Rose Garden address today. So, for many people who are seeing this, and Republicans especially, I mean, he is the best, pick that a Republican Senate could want from a Democratic president in a normal year. But this, of course, is not a normal year. Republicans have said no way, as Margaret said. The hope, I think, from many now on the right, on the left, Democrats, is that Republicans, as the summer progresses, and it looks like perhaps the Democrat will win the White House in November, maybe they'll change their mind and recognize we better confirm this guy because he really is the most moderate pick that we're going to get.
Jan, you've covered controversial Supreme Court nominations before. Give us some perspective. Where does this rank historically?
Well, I mean, this is an interesting choice because, again, he is not seen as a liberal firebrand. Certainly, if you look back through history, other justices have been more open about their views, been more to the right or to the left, and there's been a lot that the Senate, that would be in opposition could find to kind of strike a match and campaign against them. I mean, think about Justice Alito, for example, nominated by President Bush. He had written, opinions that suggested that he might be willing to strike down Roe versus Wade, a very controversial nominee for people on the left. Of course, he was eventually confirmed. So, you do see these controversial hearings, but this is the case right now on nomination that may never get to a hearing unless it looks like that the Democrats are going to retake the White House or return to the White House.
Margaret, let me ask you, are the Republicans taking a chance here? Garland is widely accepted among the Republicans in Washington. The nominee the next president might choose might not be as acceptable.
Exactly, and that's why Jan's point about watching what happens around November and in a lame duck session, if you could see some movement there. Basically, this is a political gamble for Republicans to see what way the election is headed. Could the nominee coming down the pike in the next administration actually be more liberal, make Merrick Garland perhaps more palatable in that new Congress? Could the president get it through if the Democrats take back more seats? So it's really a gamble as to what we see happen on the political campaign trail. But the White House believes that by, really going to the home bases of many of those in Congress and rattling the cage and getting some activist groups and speaking to some of the progressive groups, that they can get pressure building back home in the home states of some of these Senate Republicans, like Chuck Grassley. He is the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and today you saw a little bit of squishiness there. The White House saying, we think Grassley will meet with us and will meet with our nominee. Grassley saying, wait a second, nothing's on the calendar yet. Give me some time. I'll at least consider hearing this case. So right now, we're not even talking about a hearing, as Jan said. We're talking about just a face-to-face meeting, and that's the strategy. It's baby steps here. Can you get Senate Republicans to meet and turn down Merrick Garland face-to-face and go out and stand by this hardline position?
All right, Margaret Brennan and Jan Crawford from Washington, thanks to you both.